Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I'm your host, Chris Cosentino. We are here to talk about people that inspire, and all my guests are inspiring in so many different ways. And I'm really looking forward to digging deep into how they got to where they are, to the top of their game, how hard they've worked, how much they've given up, and how they're giving back. So without further ado, here's our next guest. Hey everybody, welcome to Losing Your Mind with Chris Cosentino. I am excited because I am here today with my good friend, Jeremy Fox. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Sorry I missed the last one.
Nah, it's good, man. It's life, right? We have to put priorities first. And I would definitely say Birdie is on the top of the priority list for you.
I think it was a teeth thing back then, several months ago.
Jeremy and I go way back. I'm talking it makes me sound like we're really old right now when I say that.
Or yeah, but you actually even met.
Yeah, I mean, like both of us went to Johnson and Wales. Both of us worked in the Bay Area for many years. And for a long time, Jeremy was doing whole pig dinners down at Manresa. For a lot of people who don't know that, Jeremy does cook swine very well. And then you went up from Manresa to Ubuntu, which was revelatory for a lot of folks. But what I wanted to do was start off with kind of you giving a little bit of introduction of how you started cooking and how you got into this, because you've really changed, I think, a lot of people's thought process on how they look at food. And you've done that really organically and in a really methodical way without beating people over the head. And I think that's been a really, really amazing role that you've led.
Well, thank you for that. I didn't try to do any of it. It's not what it's not the direction I had planned on going after high school, or even when I decided to go to culinary school. But, the culinary school thing was kind of it had been a bug that had always been in my head about just having like an Applebee's kind of thing, or, something like that. And then I saw a big night, and that was literally what made me go to culinary school, which was a little bit impulsive, but, I also was not enjoying, the normal stuff I was doing at Georgia State at the time. And this seemed like, the Wild West. People weren't really going to culinary school back then, or, chefs weren't, known names other than a few people,
I think when you and I got in this game, it was definitely the Wild West. There was no big major players except, there was the staples, right? There was Mark Miller, there was
Wolfgang,
Larry Forgione, you had Jeremiah Towers, you had a handful of like greats, the New York Daniel Boulou, but it wasn't what it is now. And it definitely was the Wild West. It was like the last bastion of pirate ships,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I really, for some reason, really gravitated to the environment that it was back then. I think part of it was that I wanted to pay my dues. And some of that was also based on this movie, Swimming with Sharks, that had Kevin Spacey as a movie producer, and then Frank Whaley as like his assistant who just gets abused. So I was definitely willing to take any abuse that was given to me, like with a smile.
I think at that time we all did. I mean, it was part of the learning curve. I mean, we chose to work crazy hours. We chose the intensity for the education. I mean, it was really, that was the only way we were going to get the education other than reading books.
Yeah, and I think that was how you set yourself apart from other people, is how much earlier off the clock are you coming into work? How much later after you clock out are you working? Those were kind of the most advertised ways to get ahead, I guess.
And it's crazy because that, now, none of us would even ask staff to do that at this point. And,
oh no.
I mean,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing, and it's a non-existent thing at this point. But So when you first started cooking, what was your first job, like real job in a kitchen, physically?
My first my first job in the kitchen was Chick-fil-A at North Lake Mall in Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah.
You're now probably my son's hero just for that because he thinks Chick-fil-A is the best thing since sliced bread.
You know, I'm not a big fan of Chick-fil-A, but I don't know if it's still the same, but back then, like, we were getting in fresh chicken breasts, breading them by hand. Like, I can't imagine that's done anymore.
I doubt it. I think it's probably all done in a big facility that's then they do it in bulk and then ship it out.
Yeah,
I'm sure they have to with the
there's
amount of
there's
locations.
no way. But yeah, that was crazy, you know?
That's definitely not considered fast food nowadays if you do it that way.
Right. And then in culinary school, I got a job as a prep cook at a place called, it was an opening. It was called Sonoma Cafe and Wine Bar, um, in, you know, downtown Charleston. Beautiful space. It was like fusion food, but I was really into it. And that was, you know, kind of where I learned about like the hierarchy and, you know, the way you got to do things. You know, I remember kind of my first introduction was, you know, I was a prep cook and I was, you know, seeing one of the line cooks needed something, and she said, you know, told me that they're out, so it needs to be 86. So I went and 86'd it, and then the chef is like, who the fuck do you think you are 86ing a dish? I'm the chef. And I was like, that's a good point. And I didn't do that again.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Go back over there and go make what I just told you, what you just
Exactly.
did."
I literally thought I was just doing what I was supposed to do. So you know, it was those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, you're hearing who at that point was somebody that was over you, the line cook, saying you need to 86 this, so you went and did what that person asked you to do.
Yeah.
But she kind of, or that person, that cook, missed a step in the middle.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of sabotage, but or just like um,
So talk about your trajectory from there. I mean, you know, you're in Charleston, you're working at this place as a prep cook. Where do you go from there, and what were the steps to get from, you know, Charleston? How do you get to California? How that whole process worked? Because I think a lot of people really need to understand how much time and energy and effort you've put into getting to where you are now. This didn't just happen overnight. I mean, you toiled.
I did, and you know, it definitely wasn't an obvious route. It wasn't methodical. I, you know, signed up to do my externship through the school, which I had to do, and my mom was living at Boca Raton, Florida at the time, so I thought, I'll, you know, that seems like a cool thing. You know, I'll stay with her, um, and I was doing it at the Boca West Country Club, but my mom had sent me ahead of time, like she'd always send me like newspaper clippings, and there was this restaurant called Bistro Zenith that it just, you know, at the time I thought it looked amazing. So I got a job there like part-time, and then they convinced me like, just screw your externship, just work here full-time. And that's what I did. So I worked the line. That was my first line cook job. And, you know, I really enjoyed it. You know, I got my ass handed to me a lot of times, but there were some really great people there who like took me under their wing, and you know, I really enjoyed my time there. And then I went back to Charleston to finish school, and I worked at Anson. I got to work at Anson with Chef Mike Latta, who was kind of the first person for me to see like farmers coming to the back door with ingredients. And you know, I was looking at all the Charlie Trotter books at the time, and all like, because like they listed all the varieties of the vegetables, and I was starting to actually see those varieties of vegetables coming in the back door, and it was pretty cool. Like by the time I was done there, I had pretty much seen all the vegetables that were in the Charlie Trotter book, so it felt like a win. And you know, that was a great place to work.
It's so interesting you mentioned that. It's like the Charlie Trotter book, right? This is like, we're talking pre-big internet, where that's the information that we had. We had photocopies of menus, we had cookbooks with pictures in it,
Hmm.
or some friend of ours went to a restaurant, or we waited for food arts, right? Like that was
There's
it.
no e-gullet, no
Nothing,
Instagram, nothing.
nothing. We were like grabbing at straws, scratches of paper to try to get some form of information. So the
I
restaurant that
used
you
to.
worked at Boca, who was the chef there?
His name is Christopher Dutka.
Did you work with Mark Zatuni out there?
Mark Satuni. No, I don't,
Is
I
that,
don't recognize that name.
restaurant rings a bell with me, that just the name. I don't
It was a lot of ex Mark Militello guys.
know. Hmm.
Um,
And for folks out there who don't know, Mark Militello, he's one of the original Mango Gang with Robin Haas, Alan
Norman Van Aken.
Revenant, Susser, like those guys. Not Susser Lee, Alan Susser.
Yeah.
Those guys really helped pioneer what was known as Floridian cuisine. So from there, you're now with Mike Lotta, and what's next?
So I was with Anson for about a year and a half until I moved back to Atlanta. Um, but during that time, I did my externship at Charleston Place Hotel. So, and that was a miserable summer because I was working full time at Anson on the line at night, and then 5 days a week, and then 5 days a week I was working either banquet prep or doing omelets on the line on the weekend at the buffet from
Brutal.
like 6 a.m. to 2, and then I'd go to the other job. So that was miserable. That was a really bad summer.
And I'm sure it was hot as all Hades, and you're working your butt off.
It was hot, and it was kind of thing where like there was nowhere to park, so I ended up like just getting so many tickets and getting booted, several times over the time. And but I kind of thought if I could make it through that, which I did with a shred of sanity left, that I could do more. And then I didn't get to finish school. I told the story, but I had 2 classes left. I was advanced baking and pastry, and I went to print out my my final project at like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and my printer was out of ink. So I went out to get a new ink at Piggly Wiggly, and I got carjacked, and I missed the class that morning, and they dropped me from the class and said I'd had to pay to take the class over again. So I quit Johnson & Wales with 2 classes left, and moved.
You got carjacked, and then they dropped you.
Yes. I showed them the newspaper article, and it didn't matter. I didn't fulfill the requirements of the class. So, I've always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder with Johnson & Wales about that.
Yeah, that's just poor form. Sorry, that's just poor form. Hey, by the way, you got, carjacked. You got, you have to pay for the class over again and find a new car. Yeah, that's really lovely. So, obviously, you not finishing school didn't stop you, right? Like you've just gone on and just kept pushing the envelope and pushing yourself to, really find where you want to be and what style of food that you want to cook. And then, after that, how did you get to California? Like, how did you get out here?
So I was working at a place called Mumbo Jumbo in Atlanta for Sean Doty, and I was there about 2.5 years. I started as line cook and then left as chef de cuisine. And I remember I was sous chef, and then the chef de cuisine got fired, and I told my chef, I was like, I want the job, and he's like, do I have to pay you more money? I said, no. He said, okay, you're chef de cuisine. So that's kind of how that happened. But I didn't care. It was fine. But I'd gotten, the bug about California cuisine and, the ingredients that were available. I would call all these restaurants and pretend that I was scoping out a place for a business dinner, so they would fax me the menu, because this was before like they all had websites, and
I fucking love it. That's genius, Jeremy.
So I was, I was getting menus from like Zuni and Bizu, all like the quintessential California places. And eventually, I found this chef Keith Luce, he had won a beer award, when he was like 27 in Chicago, but he was opening up his own restaurant in San Francisco, and I got a hold of him, and I was like, I want to work for you. So I moved out there, and I got here, I think it was September 9th, 2001. So it was like 2 days before 9/11, which wasn't the best time to be, opening a new restaurant and needing a job. But eventually it opened, and it did pretty well.
I remember that opening. That was huge.
But it wasn't, yeah, it was really good. I learned a lot there, but it just wasn't really working out for me. So then I ended up at Rubicon working for Dennis Leary, and I was there for about 6 months. And I'd always wanted to work at Charles Knott Hill. I was kind of stuck in my head, and I got an opening came up there, and so I left Rubicon, and I feel like that bridge was burned. I think Dennis was a little not happy that I was leaving so quickly. It was like, you've worked in, you've been here for 6 months in San Francisco. It's your third job. Good luck. And I wasn't at Charles Knob Hill that long either. I really did enjoy it there. Melissa was great. See, Christoph Hill, who opened A16, was part of the crew then. It was a really small crew, but I really enjoyed it. But I was still just like antsy, like it's not it. I thought it was going to be it. And then I got a job as the executive chef of the Sky Hotel in Aspen for Kimpton Group, and I was 25. Moved there in like the summer of 2002. And I had, my expectations for what I was going to do there were, not realistic. Like I thought I was going to get, show everyone what a bar lounge menu could really be. And I was going to get Food and Wine Best New Chef. And, anyone who got in my way, I was just going to destroy them. But, I was below the food and beverage manager and the GM of the hotel, and some cocky 25-year-old telling you how it's supposed to be done doesn't really work. So I quit, put in my notice, and then they asked me to leave earlier. And then they sent a task force chef in, who, I think that was you, wasn't it?
That was me.
That was you.
I was at Kimpton Grand Cafe at the time.
Okay, in San Francisco.
And they just said, hey, we need somebody to go out to this property. All they just did was, go to that property, we need hands for the winter.
Yeah, and that's what I meant, like how we met before we met. And I didn't realize, I don't think we realized that until several years later when we were talking.
Much years later, I was like, what?
Much later.
Yeah, and it's funny because you were at Rubicon after I was at Rubicon. It's like we've been in a lot of the same for years.
Yeah, it's a small, it's a small city when you come down to it.
For sure.
But when I moved back to the Bay Area in Sunnyvale, David Kinch had just gotten reviewed at Manresa and LA Magazine, and I was like, wow, this place looks great. So I went and staged, and I was like, this is awesome. And I tried to stage again, and I couldn't get him on the phone. So Deanie, actually, she convinced me. She's like, just go, just show up. And I did, and someone had no call, no show that day, and I got a job.
It's amazing.
I got a job on the Amuse station where, you did the Amuse, you made family meal, and you cleaned the walk-in. And I was in heaven. I went from running a hotel restaurant to cleaning the walk-in, and I was super happy.
At that point, you're at a property that has I mean, the list of people who have come out of that restaurant are just monumental, right? You're still friends with everyone that I'll mention, right? So there's like Kim Alter is there, James Shivo is there,
Mm-hmm. Joe Centeno.
Joe Santana. I mean,
He was a CDC when I started.
the list is long and deep of who.
Yeah, and I realized how good people around me were, and I believed in that restaurant. I believed in David Kinch. You know, this was before, you know, 50 Best and Michelin stars and even 4 stars from the Chronicle. And there were some rocky times there where it wasn't super busy and it didn't look good. But everyone there really bought in. Like you knew what that restaurant was great and just needed to be noticed. And I felt really lucky to be there. And it was a great thing to be like, it's a lot better I stayed there because like, where was I going to go? You know, I wasn't ready to be a chef again. And there wasn't another restaurant where I wanted to go after that. So I just stayed there till, you know, I guess my expiration date.
I mean, you were there, you rose to the top. I mean, how many years were you there?
I was there about 5 years, and I was CDC for about the last year and a half. That's only because James went to Europe. You know, we were co-sous chefs. He's way more talented than me. That's the only reason I got it, out of a technicality.
I mean, I remember coming down and having the pig dinner down there with you, and I remember all the fun. And you would come up to Encanto during offal dinners.
Oh yeah, the beef tartare I still remember to this day. One of the best dishes I've ever had.
I mean, those were fun times when everybody was just like constantly seeing what everybody was doing, supporting each other in such a unique way in the Bay Area. It was such a different time.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the time of the whole hog dinners at Oliveto, which
yeah, we all were going. It was like this
God, it was so mind blowing. And I remember
Finalist was doing those.
Yeah, I remember we were all going as a kitchen on a Monday, and then the Sunday we were all at the Black Watch in Los Gatos having a drink, and Kinch like pulls me outside and he's like, just so you know, dinner tomorrow, like the investors are going to pay for it, so get whatever you want. That was like, wow.
Great. It shows how much they respected your skill and care and love of being there. It's amazing. So
good times.
So you moved on from working with David, and you know, now, I mean, you're in LA now. You know, that was a different road to get there.
It's been 11 years now.
And I mean, you've really, so you opened Ubuntu, right? You were the opening, which was a very unique environment, right? It was attached to a yoga studio, and, you know,
vegetarian. Had a farm.
You know, I remember eating there, and you were like, literally, these were just picked like 2 hours. And it was totally insane how much you were working. I mean, you were like full on, full gas all the time. But
the autopilot though, like I never felt like I was working too much. It just kept going.
I mean, it was massive. I mean, it rocked everybody when Ubuntu just boom. Everybody was like, "Holy crap, what is going on?" One, because you flipped everybody upside down because you were doing a lot of meat dishes, you were doing the pork dinners, and then boom, you had always cooked vegetables, but you just like it was a tsunami of vegetables for everybody. They just had no clue it was coming, and I think it really set a unique precedent from that moment on.
It's definitely a time and place thing, you know.
For sure. I mean, I remember the meal that Tatiana and it was just, I was like, oh, we need to come do this again and again. It was just so inspiring and eye-opening and fun. That was the thing. It was the food was fun. It wasn't precious. It wasn't, you know, it didn't feel like I needed a lesson to how to eat it. And I think that's what was really great about it, is because a lot of times at that point, people needed lessons on how to eat, right? People were telling you how to eat your food. Okay, you got it. swipe this 2 times to the right and then dip
Chef
it.
recommends this.
Yeah, it's like you didn't do that. You made it so you looked at it and go, this looks delicious. There wasn't an instruction manual. You got to eat and have fun. And I think it set a precedent. It really did.
It was fun. It was fun for a long time because there was no template for what was happening there, and having the produce be so amazing, and a 10-minute drive from the restaurant, and yeah, it was lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
That I think is a perfect example. A perfect term for it. It was lightning in a bottle.
Lightning in a bottle in the wrong location. If that had been in San Francisco, I think there would have been a different story. But in Napa, there wasn't enough population to keep it going.
But I think yes and no. I think yes, it would have been busier consistently if it was in the city, but you wouldn't have had the 5-minute drive to the farm.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't have had the same lightning in a bottle experience because of the closeness of proximity to the farm and the freshness and how things were coming in like moments before they were hitting the plate really made a difference.
Yeah, it was, so a lot of it's a blur, but, it was kind of thing where, the review came out from Bauer, and all of a sudden, the farmer's market, Chris Cosentino is talking to me, and Daniel Patterson, and people know who I am now. And, that's pretty cool, the first time that happens.
I mean, I know who you were before.
Yeah. Like, we had plenty talked.
The thing is that I can tell you I was excited for you because how much effort and energy and time you were putting into it. And it made sense. It didn't feel, and as you know, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of places that put time and energy into things because they think it's what it needs to be, or they think it's the thing that everybody thinks it should be. Mm-hmm. You were doing it because it was what you believed in, and that was the most important thing. And that
yes and no. Like you can tend to get jaded or get off course because people who are flying in from around the world are saying you're amazing, and then people who live in Napa are not enjoying it, and so you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to survive on this person flying in from overseas. I need to have the locals come in, but the food that I would need to serve for more of a accessibility isn't going to have people fly around the world for. So it was just kind of this. What's that? Catch-22. Yeah, that got a little confusing to try to figure out who I'm cooking for and who I should be cooking for.
I think that is a hard question that a lot of people at that point in their career try to figure out, because as you were thinking that with vegetables, I was saying the same thing in the city with serving organ meats. Mm-hmm. Because I was viewed as a monster. And
you're the lips and assholes guy, and I'm
exactly.
I was the veg guy.
Do you remember we used to talk about doing dinners where we would sweat?
Yep. I still have that shirt. It doesn't fit me anymore, but I'm not getting
rid of it. I should make those again. They were funny. It
was great. The ringer.
They were awesome t-shirts and pink hot dog. They were so good. I should definitely do those again. I think those were
I'd buy a new one.
I just think that was a really fun time where you and I were talking about that. It's like, yeah, let's do a dinner and you cook the organs and I'll cook the vegetables. And we were just laughing, thinking everybody would like.
I don't know why we never did
it. We should have. I think we were just we had gotten so busy and we were just like running constantly. And,
yeah.
I mean, you were nominated for James Beard. You were in New York. You were doing all these things. And, things changed, right? Times changed, and you changed, and and you and I have talked a lot about that off camera,
off the record,
which I think was great that we both had each other to bounce to when we needed it. I think that was really,
yeah, I think when the COVID shut down, I think you were probably the first person I talked to. And we're like, this sucks.
You and I have had many a conversation about it all. Yeah, I think it's definitely definitely an interesting conversation to have with people, and I think you and I have been on the same bandwidth for a long time and can really have those conversations candidly without whether it be about what meds I'm taking or how stressed out we are, or the anxiety driven component of what this business leads us to, or yeah, I think it's a big conversation piece.
Yeah.
It's not always easy or fun either.
No,
but I think if we don't have it, we're not going in the right direction, because for years they told us not to say anything.
Yeah, and I still feel like there's a little bit of that, when it comes down to it. Like, people like the idea of you struggling with mental health, but they don't want to actually deal with you struggling with mental health.
Yeah, there definitely is that world still. Everybody wants to. That's great that you want to talk about it, but you can deal with it on your own.
Yeah, but it's business.
But it's not. I mean, it's like it's a pretty serious conversation that needs to be had, and I think being able to talk about it openly with friends or with people in general, I think is really important, because it just kind of gives people an insight to what or how hard it may be for one said individual.
Yeah.
So from Ubuntu, you did a bit of soul searching.
Yeah, you can call it that.
I think that's the best. And that's when we spent a lot of time on the phone.
That's the nice little package that it's wrapped up in now. But it didn't feel like that at the time. And I think the things I went through, the things I created, situations I created for myself, luckily I was eventually able to see what was happening to my life, and I had to make a decision. I was like, I got to change everything. And luckily Rustic Canyon kind of gave me that opportunity. It was kind of not off the grid, but it wasn't a high profile thing when I took over. I had been there for a while before anyone knew I was there, and it was a slow burn, but kind of great things happened there that I'm really proud of, that I didn't think were going to happen.
You really, with what you were doing at Rustic Canyon, and I was talking to you quite often back then, and you were telling me what you were working on and what was happening, and the food you were putting out was really, really beautiful and true to you. It's amazing. I mean, I've had great meals there. I've had great meals at Birdie G's. It's like you're having fun, and it was really coming through. Like, you found the fun again.
It did. And it felt like I wasn't even trying as hard as I wasn't trying too hard. I was still having, working 5-day weeks for the most part, and maybe working 60 hours a week instead of 90 to 100. And it felt very doable. But, I also felt like it wasn't just like this thing where I started there and just everything turned to roses. Like, I was, I felt a little like isolated there, which I think kind of helped. But I also knew that my back was against the wall, and like, if I screwed this up, that was it. No one would want to hire me after that. So I think it made me know that I really needed to be a team player. I needed to listen to my bosses. I needed to have results. I needed to make the restaurant financially viable. Those are all things that I knew I had to do in order to keep the job. And it wasn't about, I had long resided myself to the fact that I'm never going to be nominated for a James Beard Award again. I'm never going to be kind of in, you know, the good graces of the food world again. And that was a little liberating, but also it's also something that I was trying to like feeling like I had you know, blown an opportunity, you know. But I knew that this was a really good opportunity, and the people were nice. I loved working there, and we made the best of it.
I think, you know, there's something to be said for as we get older, we learn to get out of our own way a little bit.
Yeah, you know, had a kid in that time, um, wrote a book, and just got older. That's the one.
It's I think that's a really, you know, we all grow up at some point, right? We all have to figure it out. Not always as fast as we want to, or as easily as we want to. Not everybody's road is roses to get to, you know, to get there. But I mean, you know, you figured it out, and
You
you.
know, it was refreshing because, you know, I kind of I refused to like cook for people. I wasn't doing tasting menus if people came in. Like I'd say order and I'll fill in the blanks. Um, like I couldn't. I still haven't done a tasting menu to this day, and you know, I'd like to at some point. And talking about it now, but that's kind of like a triggering thing, you know, because I was always just we had the regular menu at Ubuntu, and then we had the menu that I was staying up for days at a time, um, making sure we had for people who would post about it. Um, but I felt like I shied away from all those things, and things still started happening. Good reviews, getting busy, um, beer nominations, like it all. It was kind of like I felt like it was a sick joke, like all those years, like you were killing yourself. Um, you didn't really have to. You know, not that I wasn't working hard. I was still working hard, but not like before.
You're
And
working smarter, not harder.
smarter, not harder. And it was also really great people surrounding me. Um, Obviously, I couldn't have done without them.
I mean, and you know, from Rustic Canyon, what came next? That was Tallulah,
Tallulah's, um,
Weimar.
Esther's, we did Esther's, and then Birdie G's in June of 2019.
And
And
same partners.
same partners, same group, a
And that's
lot
it.
of the same, a lot of the same actors, um, and it was by far the smoothest opening I've ever been a part of. Um, it went really well. I was in a lot of pain at that time because I had uh, I had gout and plantar fasciitis in my feet pretty much every day, and then I slipped some discs in my back, and like I just remember that time as just wearing slippers to work, and you know, not being able to go up the stairs, and like needing someone to go get me something upstairs, and it was rough, but it was a good opening. Everyone was did such a great job, and you know we were rolling. You know we were busy. We were, you know, we started out 2020 gangbusters, and then that was it. You know, 8 months in, we shut down, and that's. I think I'm now just starting to deal with the the effects of that. You know, because it's just kind of going on instinct and adrenaline for 2 years of like, okay, we're pivoting to this, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. And now that, you know, the restaurants survived, like they're all open. Um, and which I'm super happy for and grateful for. But I think I'm kind of, I kind of put off my mental health for so long. Just there was no time for it. There was no time for me to be, you know, shaky. Um, so I think it's kind of starting to happen now, like the last maybe like couple months.
it's tough because, and I completely, I can see it, the whole thing. You had to be the strong, you had to be the leader, you had to be all these pieces, and you couldn't let anybody around you see or feel that because they wanted direction to succeed and survive. It's survival mode. You know, it's fight or flight, and you lived it for 2 years. That's a really long time to be in fight or flight, and then your body just kind of runs out of gas. It just needs
Yeah. You know, I've also been, you know, working with a new psychiatrist and new medication that, you know, it's right now there, you know, I'm trying different medications. So it's like finding what works and what doesn't, which means some days are rougher than others. You know, all to the end goal of feeling, you know, strong and feeling like the best version of myself again, which I am not right now. I'm still able to function, and I love the food that I'm cooking, and I love my team, and I love being here. Um, so it's like this thing, like all these things are good. Why are you upset? Why aren't you happy? And that's just not the way it works.
I wish people could understand that because, you know, they view everything through a distorted lens. They view yourself or myself through Instagram or what we're doing, what they think we're doing, and where they think we should be. But they don't realize that those are distorted lenses. It's like looking at someone through the bottom of a Coca-Cola bottle, right? Um, you know, nobody ever really wants to shit. Nobody shows you plunging a toilet in the restaurant on their Instagram feed, right? It's
No.
just, it's just nobody wants to see the not pretty. So the perception is that because everything's moving forward and seems to be going well, that everything just must be roses. And it's not always that way. It's perception versus reality. And I think it's a hard thing for people to choke down, to understand that, yeah, it's not a choice. We don't choose to feel this way. We don't want to feel this way. It's just the chemical imbalance that we have in our brains that makes us feel this way.
You know, it kind of feels like, and I've always thought about this, like how does a baseball player who's having a really bad season, how do they go home and not have that affect their life? Like how do they go, you know, be in a huge slump and not just be miserable to be around? Um, and you know, at this point, it feels like I've been in a 2-year slump, um, which kind of, you know, hurts the confidence, and um, just trying to figure out how to get the swing back, you know?
I get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. If anybody gets it, I do, dude. You know that. That's why we talk about it. You know, I think we're standing at the same plate swinging, just for some reason the balls keep going the wrong way.
It's just the two of us talking. It's not like anyone's ever going to hear this. So
No, never. No, nobody's gonna hear this.
it's fine.
I think so. Let's talk about Birdie G's and, you know, what you guys are doing there. I had a great, it was such a pleasure to be able to come down during the middle of everything being in the complete world of shits, right?
Mm-hmm.
To have that opportunity. You guys had just been able to allow people in the dining room again when I came down. Um, it was so fun to sit down and just,
I ate with you, right?
yeah, you ate with me.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
It was such a fun night just to like catch up and see what you're doing and see the space because I wanted to come down, and then the world turned upside down. I mean, you guys are having so much. The food is so fun and it's personal, yet at the same time, people gravitate towards it. It's craveable. It just, you know, like I look up and you've got how many persimmons had you had hanging?
1,500.
That's crazy. And
Yes, I got to start using them.
you were doing kiwis, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that I've wanted to try with dried persimmons for a while, and I still have to try it. I want to do, um, you have them, so you do it because I don't have them, and nor do I have the product to do it. I want to do shaved batarga, a tartlet with shaved batarga and shaved 3% little tartlet.
I see that.
That'd be cool. Like you could just,
Yeah. I can see monochromatic. I can see it.
It's like totally, you get that sweet and then that richness and umami, and oh my God, just like
Some,
that could just be
it's some like acidic cardoons in there or something.
just so fun. Like I just
Yeah.
am thinking about it for so long. I'm like, God, that would be so rad.
I might like it, love it, mine now.
I love that. So what is what was the thought process behind Birdie G's? Because I think for a lot of folks, they didn't know what to expect, and you came forth with this just like a giant hug. Like I walked in there and I felt like I was getting a giant hug. The same thing with the food, but it was a hug that was like personal yet unique at the same time. It wasn't a situation where you're like, oh, I get that. That totally makes sense. Like when you served me the strawberry sofrito, my head just went. I was like, fuck, I'm dumb. How did I not think of that concept?
That's an old one.
It's an old one, but it's delicious, dude. It's so
Yeah.
good.
I think Birdie G's is a lot different than what it was when it opened. I didn't have a lot of clarity at the time of what it would be, and honestly, a lot of it was driven by the fact that it had to be. The main thing is it had to be different enough from Rustic Canyon that people would still go to Rustic Canyon. So it wasn't necessarily my repertoire. I wasn't, unleashing signature dishes. Um, you know, I guess people had to be patient while I was figuring out what we were going to be. And it's not until like the last few months that it started to kind of solidify itself. But the menu was way too big. It was way too, the items were way too disparate. But it seemed like it seemed like people loved it. I don't think critics loved it, but we were busy. People enjoyed coming in to eat, and that was that felt really good. But as things change, and with the pandemic and reopening with less staff and less availability, it forced different thought processes throughout the pandemic of, right now flour and yeast are my biggest sellers, and trying to figure out a one sheet. What's the one sheet for Birdie G's? Like at Ubuntu, it was easy. It was a vegetable restaurant. Rustic Canyon, it was farm to table. What is Birdie G's? And that, is it a retro Midwest restaurant? Is it an Ashkenazi restaurant? Is it Italian? There's jerk chicken, and eventually, I think we've kind of narrowed in on what we're doing, and kind of embracing all of Eastern Europe right now. And the food is so comforting, and just has so much character, and there's a whole lot of inspiration there that I'm kind of uncovering, and my team is uncovering kind of as we research and try things out.
I love it. Well,
a lot of meat right now.
A lot of meat.
I'm in a meat phase right now.
That's a good thing. I don't dislike those phases. But that's the thing. It's like for a long time you got pigeonholed. You got pigeonholed as a vegetable guy, just like I got pigeonholed as the gut guy. And I think when you're at Rustic Canyon, you were able to play with, be free and do whatever you wanted. And now you're able to do that again at Birdie G's. And you're just showing people so many beautiful broad strokes of what you're able to do. And you have a great team there. I mean, your staff was so welcoming and so fun that night.
I've got a great team. Super blessed and super lucky to have them, and who keep things going on a day-to-day basis, and kind of keep me on task as well. And it's also really helpful that Andy Dubrava is killing it at Rustic Canyon with his own style, which it definitely allows me to focus on Birdie G's and not have to worry about what's going on in Rustic Canyon, because he's made it his own.
Yeah, I mean, I follow Andy and what he's been doing, and it's really exciting to see him come into his own as well. So
And then my chef de cuisine here, Matt Shaler, like he's been kind of been a rock since you know, before we opened. And it's a big restaurant. It's especially big now with the outdoors, you know, so our little 5,000 square foot restaurant became a 10,000 square foot restaurant. And, you know, he runs it with, you know, really careful hand. And, you know, it's definitely a great environment, I think.
Sure. Well, let's play a game. I like to end it all with a game.
Okay.
It's there's no wrong answer, so it's just a quick fire. Okay.
Okay.
Hamburger, hot dog,
Hamburger,
ketchup, mustard,
mustard,
Dijon or whole grain,
Dijon,
beef or pork,
beef,
chicken.
beef to eat, pork to cook.
Fair. Chicken or duck?
Chicken. Chicken's underrated.
I agree. I mean, I like chicken too. It's interesting to see the difference, right?
Yeah.
I had chicken for dinner last night. Nigiri or sashimi?
Sashimi.
Sea urchin, caviar,
Sea urchin.
shrimp or lobster?
Shrimp.
Favorite crab?
Dungeness.
Kind of hard not to pick Dungeness, right?
I mean, yeah, it's California.
But I mean, I love soft shells. I love the blue crab, but there's a lot of work involved.
I love soft shell, but I have this thing where I don't feel that it's the right thing for me to order it from 3,000 miles away when we, you know, the ocean is 11 blocks from Rustic Canyon. So we don't really do soft shell crab, but I love eating it.
I love eating them too, but I'm a Dungeness crab too. But I grew up in New England, so like I'm a lobster guy too. So it's kind of a tough.
Yeah.
Even those, it's like I feel bad shipping them across. You know, that's a tough one. It's always a tough one. Okay. Pasta, noodles.
So what's the difference?
Traditionally, as you know, one would be considered Italian, aka pasta, and noodles would be of rice flour and so forth.
Ooh. Pasta.
Dumpling, ravioli.
Dumpling.
Burrito, taco.
Taco.
Chocolate or fruit?
Chocolate.
Bitter or milk?
What do you say?
Bitter or milk chocolate?
Oh, milk.
Wow. Coffee or tea?
Tea. I can't drink coffee anymore.
No?
No.
Bad for the gut.
Gets me too shaky.
Yeah.
Too jumpy.
A lot of people have been saying that lately. Are we getting old? We're not.
Yeah, we are. We are.
We shouldn't be admitting that.
You know, we're getting old.
We're getting old. I don't have as big of a beard, so you can't see mine. I keep it trimmed short on purpose.
I've got way more gray than you. But you look super healthy. You look great.
Thanks.
You seem great.
Thank you. I'm trying. It's not always easy.
And those dimples. Man, if I had those dimples.
If you had those dimples, little Birdie would have those dimples. Then you'd be in.
Oh man, I'd be in real trouble.
You'd be in real trouble.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh man. Woof. Favorite? What's your guilty pleasure?
Fast food.
Anyone in particular? Anything like? Is it a burger? Is it like fried chicken? Is it
McDonald's cheeseburger?
Oh yeah.
Or Wendy's cheeseburger. One of those two.
Favorite candy?
Payday?
It's been interesting to hear what people have said. It's been quite the mix of folks of
Yeah.
like different like a lot of gummy bears. Gummy bears has been.
I'm not a gummy bear fan.
I like. I'm a Swedish fish guy. I love Swedish fish.
Birdie loves Swedish fish. We bribe her a lot with those.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Do you have the little small packs to like?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's a good move, dude. I like that.
Yeah. If you listen to us, you can have this.
Okay. She's a good eater, right? She comes to the restaurant. She seems to eat. No?
No.
Is it
The only thing she eats here are the fries, Shirley Temple, and vanilla ice cream.
Is it a rebellion against you, or is it just a rebellion against
You know, she was actually a more adventurous eater when she was, 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the last couple of weeks she's been really trying out more things and doing better on her meals.
A lot of that comes. What I found was that a lot of it comes from the other kids at school, what her friends are eating.
Yes.
She doesn't want to be the kid going, I went to my dad's restaurant and I had anchovies, and they're like, ew.
Well, she had the duck at Pajot, and now she loves duck.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave Barron.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. My son, when he was, he's 17 now, but when he was little, he used to eat what all my friends would put in front of him, which was awesome. Like, but man, when he would go to a sushi restaurant, he would eat me out of house and home because of them. I was like, guys, don't do that anymore. Don't always give him the good stuff.
Is he still a good eater?
No. It fluctuates. Like,
yeah.
He still wants, like, for his birthday, he wanted the spaghetti with your tuna heart. Not really, not many kids ask for that, right? But he's still like, he loves Indian food. He loves burgers, of course, like every kid. Likes fried chicken sandwiches. It just depends on what his day is like.
Teenager.
He's a teenager. Yeah. I get bummed by it sometimes. But I can't. So if people want to find you, best place on Instagram is what?
At Chef Jeremy Fox.
And they can most of the time find you, I'm sure, at Birdie G's, right?
Birdie G's, yep.
So folks, if you have a chance, don't walk, run down to Birdie G's and go visit Jeremy, because it will not disappoint. Jeremy, thank you so much for being so honest and candid with me.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate our friendship. It's been a long one. And
yeah.
We got to cook together soon. It's not like I have a fucking job anymore. I'm a mom.
I mean, totally should. I mean, we're not that far.
No.
I could drive there, and I could get in the car right now and be there by dinner.
Yeah, you could. What do you want for dinner? I'll cook. But yeah, let's figure something out. But again, thank you very much, everybody. Make sure if you are in LA, you get down there to Birdie G's. Check out Andy over at Rustic Canyon as well. Really, really beautiful food, really special, and just a giant hug when you get there. Thank you.